have to stop the YouTube live.
Yeah,
If you
I
don't,
can understand. Yeah.
yeah, if you don't do it, then it
is
keeps
live right now. Okay.
Yeah, at the end of the session, you'll have to stop the YouTube live. There is a YouTube live on the top, so you'll have to click that and stop the YouTube live.
Sure, please.
Thank you.
Prabhu, looks like you were talking in YouTube. I could hear you. You should unmute yourself here.
Hare Krishna, these are my obeisances. Glory to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. Sorry for being a little late. We'll resume our discussion on the third canto, first chapter, verse 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Udiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shamati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravane Pracharane Nirvishaisha Shunyavadi Paschachadeshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vacharam Pangam Nagati Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatara Paramananda Madhava. Last time we had seen in this discussion about the four reasons that were being given for the impious situation in the under the reign of Dhritarashtra, and it was summarized into the impious desires of Dhritarashtra. Then Dhritarashtra implicitly condoning the acts of Duryodhan and his associates like Karna and Shakuni. Then the cheating of the Pandavas during the Dyut Krida, the gambling, and neglecting the words of Krishna. So we now come to the 10th verse. Yadopahuta bhavanam pravishto mantraya prishtha kila purvajena atahatan mantradrasham variyan yan mantrino vedurikam vadanti. When Vidur was invited by his elder brother Dhritarashtra for consultation, he entered the house and gave instructions which were exactly to the point. His advice is well known, and instructions by Vidur are approved by expert ministers of state. So Sukha continues to give a succinct summary of the events in Mahabharata as a prelude to what Maharaj Parikshit has asked him, or rather the sages have asked him, about the conversation between Vidur and Maitreya Rishi. So this verse now brings Vidur into the focus, that Dhritarashtra, he is calling Vidur to give advice. And Vidur is famous for giving impartial and frank advice. He is known to speak his mind, and he's known to speak according to the scriptures. In fact, even these days in learned circle, when people speak in that mood, as per the scriptures and fearlessly, their words are glorified as Vidurvad, or words of Vidur. And it is also said that Chanakya Niti, which came much later on, is actually based on the spirit of the instructions of Vidur. So Dhritarashtra knew about the nature of Vidur. So the question is that why did he invite him to get his advice? So Dhritarashtra, even though he was a very powerful personality, but he was more given to intrigues. He was a consummate politician, and as the king, he knew that Vidur held an influential position in the court and amongst the people also. So he wanted to make sure that he has that situation covered. That, did you ask Vidur's advice? Yes, I did ask him for his advice. He knew that Duryodhana would not accept Vidur's advice, but it would have been between Duryodhana and Vidur. And Dhritarashtra would often take shelter of that distance. So he would say that, what can I do? I have such a nonsense son, and he doesn't listen to me. Like he was when he advised Yudhishthira to leave, he says that I can give you advice, I can give my son advice. You will listen to my advice, my son will not listen to my advice. He gave that analogy of using an axe to break stone or wood. And he says, because you're more properly situated, I'm giving you advice, you follow it. So he would claim helplessness. So he's doing the same thing here, that he's seeing that war is imminent. He wants the war, but he also wants to make sure that all the check boxes are ticked. So that's why he has invited Vidur to give his opinion. So let's see what will Vidur say now. Verse 11. Ajat shatraha pratiyachadayam titikshato durvisham tavagaha sahanujo yatra vakrodaraha swasan rashayat Twamalam bibeshi. Vidur said, you must now return the legitimate share to Yudhishthir, who has no enemies and who has been forbearing through untold sufferings due to your offenses. He is waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is the revengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you're afraid of him. So he begins with proposing the action. So Dhritarashtra says, what should I do? The answer is, return the legitimate share to Yudhishthir. So Yudhishthir at this point was not even asking for his kingdom. He was just asking for 5 villages. But Vidur is going beyond that. He's saying, don't just give them what they're asking as a compromise. Give them their legitimate share, the legal share that belongs to them. Now, of course, Vidur knows that Dhritarashtra will not do it. So he's giving the reasons why he should reconsider his implicit decision. First reason he says is fear of reprisals. So he says Yudhishthir is waiting with the younger brothers, and they're all very powerful warriors. And he specifically points out Bhima, because Bhima was the most committed to the destruction of the Kauravas. During the Draupadi Chirharan, Bhima, he took many very ferocious vows. He said that he will break the thigh of Duryodhana, that he will rip the arm of Dushasan, that he will drink the blood of Dushasan, that he will kill all the 100 Kauravas. So he had taken these vows in the open court. And Vidur is saying that Bhima, he's capable of fulfilling his vows. So either return the kingdom or face the wrath of Bhima. The second reason is more implicit. So he calls Vidur glorifies Yudhishthir as Ajata Shatru, that one who does not have any enemies. So which means that the path of morality was with Yudhishthir. The public opinion was with Yudhishthir. So Dhritarashtra, as a king and a politician, needs to be aware of this implication. Okay, next verse, 12. Partham studevo Bhagavan Mukundo Grihitvan Sakshiti Deva Deva Aste Swapuryam Yadu Deva Devo Vinirjita Shesh Nirdeva Deva. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, has accepted the sons of Pritha as his kinsmen. And all the kings of the world are with Lord Shri Krishna. He is present in his home, and with all his family members, the kings and the princes of the Yadu dynasty, who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers. And he is their Lord. So Dhritarashtra may say that fine, Bhima is a problem, but he's just one person. And even if all the brothers come in, they're just 5 people. And I am the monarch right now. Whether the kings like it or not, they will support me. So Vidur is saying, no, there is another person very powerful person who is in the camp of the Pandavas. So if you see that he uses the word Deva Deva 3 times here. He says Sakshati Deva Deva, Yadu Deva Deva, Nradeva Deva. Not an ordinary person, right? So Deva Deva means one who is worshipable by the demigods. So this is the third reason that Vidur is giving. That Krishna, the Lord of the Yadus, the Lord of the Naras, the humans, the Lord of the Devas, who is Bhagavan Mukunda. He specifically calls Krishna Bhagavan Mukunda. He is the personality of Godhead, the giver of liberation. And what is his relationship with the Pandavas? He is present in his home with all his family members. And he has accepted Pritha as his kinsman. So even Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan, they're family to Krishna. But Krishna has not accepted him as his kinsman. But the Pandus, he has accepted them. So they are very, very dear to him. So he says that even if somehow you're able to establish military supremacy, you still have to contend with Gritvan Sakshati Deva Deva, the Lord of the demigods and the Brahmanas, the Lord of the Yadus. And the Yadus are an exceptionally powerful clan. He is in the side of the Pandavas. You will have to contend with him also. So that is the third reason. Next verse, 13. Saesha doshaha purushad vidaste grahan pravishto yamaptaya matya pushnasi krishna vimukho gata shirish tyajasvashe tvam kula kaushalya. You are maintaining offense personified Duryodhan as your infallible son. But he is envious of Lord Krishna. And because you are maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family. So Dhritarashtra might say that, my dear younger brother, you make sense. But I don't believe that this will be acceptable by Duryodhan. So Vidur says, let me talk about Duryodhan now. And Vidur, as we discussed, is famous for speaking directly. So he says that Duryodhan is dosha. He's offense personified. Why? Because he's Purushadvit. Dusha means envy. Purusha points to Krishna. Because he is envious of Krishna. And because Duryodhan, in the form of envy of Krishna, has entered the house, the mind, and the intelligence of Dhritarashtra, all that has been polluted. So as a devotee, Vidur is firstly pointing out the most deplorable quality of Duryodhan, that he is Purushadvit, that he is envious of Krishna. So it is said that a non-devotee may have all good qualities, but they are useless. And a devotee may have no good qualities, but they are still glorious. So Vidur, as a devotee, is looking at the most glaring misfortune of Duryodhana, that he is envious of Shri Krishna. And he uses the phrase Gata Shrish. So Shri is Lakshmi Devi. And he says, because Duryodhana has entered your house, Lakshmi Devi has left your house. Because Duryodhana is the personification of envy to Krishna, the wife of Lord Vishnu will not live in the same house. So he says, Gata Shrish, that all good fortune has left you. So any place where Krishna or Vishnu is not honored, so he says Krishnat Vimukha, then Gata Shrish. Lakshmi Devi leaves. And she leaves along with all her opulences, all her auspiciousness. So Dhritarashtra might say that how can you speak like that, Vidur? Duryodhana is my son. If I reject him, that would be a black spot on my family. So Vidur says apatya matya. So apatya means son. So patit means that something that falls away, falls down. And apatya is one that protects from falling. So literally, if son is, when the father is old, then the son holds the father up, protects the father. The son also gives support to the father. And in a bigger scheme of things, because the son does the pindadan, it prevents the departed ancestors from falling into the hellish planets. So when they get the pinda, then through the Shraddha ceremony, then they acquire the right to stay in Pitraloka. So Vidur is using this word saying that you may think, so Matya means you may think that he is apatya, that he is your son. But actually, he is patita. Actually, he is going to be the cause of your downfall and that of the entire dynasty. So he is not apatya. He's not a son in the real sense of the word. So a wise man will sacrifice an individual for a family for a village, and a village for a nation. So in order to protect your family and your kingdom, what is the harm in sacrificing one person who is causing all this downfall? And then he said, moreover, that person, he's a Shaivam. So Shaivam, Shiva means auspicious. So Ashaivam means inauspicious. So he said he actually is fit to be rejected. So it's not that you are rejecting a qualified person to save your dynasty or your family or your kingdom. This person is actually fit to be rejected. So he's fully qualified to be rejected. And in doing so, you get a bonus that you get to save your dynasty. So therefore, he says, Tyaja Ashu. So Tyaja Ashu means, so Tyaj means give up, and Ashu means right now. Do not delay. It's already too late. Do not delay. Give him up immediately for Kula Kaushalya, for the welfare of your Kula. And for the king, the kula is his kingdom, also his family or his dynasty. For the welfare of everyone, he says Tyaja Ashu. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport says, according to the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandit, what is the use of a son who is neither a learned man nor a devotee of the Lord? If the son is not a devotee of the Lord, he is just like blind eyes, a source of trouble. A physician may sometimes advise the extrication of such useless eyes from the sockets so that one can be relieved of the constant trouble. So in 4 verses, from verse 10 to verse 13, we see that 3 reasons have been given by Vidur to Dhritarashtra. Firstly, that the share, 4 reasons are given. Firstly, the share legitimately belongs to the Pandavas. Then there is the fear of reprisal, specifically from Bhim. Then they have Devadeva. They have Krishna, who considers them to be his own family. And the 4th reason is that you have Duryodhan, the symbol of impiety and the cause of the downfall of your dynasty, who is an obstacle in doing this right thing. So because of these 4 reasons, Vidur says that gives to Dhritarashtra to do the right thing. Okay, so let me pause here, see if there's any comments or questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, so so when the 4th reason, right, Duryodhana as a reason, and he's advising him to give him up. So, like, in what situation should, from for our learning from the 4th reason, what situation should we take it as our karma, and what situation should we take it as something that can be altered? And here, Vidura is instructing him to, give up his son, versus,
Sure.
take it as a karma and take it as, one's past karma.
Sure, thank you. It's a good question. So the short answer is that in all situations, we should take it as both. We should take it both. So our understanding should be that the reason that we are over here is because of karma, but at the same time, we have the ability to influence what happens in the future. Because if we did not, then the whole concept of free will would be negated. So both of them are true all the time. That everything that is happening to me at this very moment is entirely because of my karma. It's a true statement. And everything that I can do at this particular moment is because of my free will. That's also a perfectly true statement. And that's how our life has the ability to be altered according to our desires. Otherwise, we would just be mindlessly, living our past karma, generating new karma as a result of living that karma, and there would be no reason to give us the scriptures. There would be no reason for Krishna to come. That's because at every moment we have the ability to do things to change what is happening.
So we can say that for every situation, right? Like, but then we also hear like sthanistata as an instruction. You know. So what?
So sthanistita means that being properly situated, right? It does not mean being passive, that in that you occupy a seat and just hold on to armrest and say, I'm not going to move over here. Sthanistita means that you be well situated, be properly situated. It's basically a reflection of your dharma, that you're a devotee. So your sthanistita is that you be properly situated in your devotional service. Somebody is a grahastha or somebody is a brahman. Sthanistita means that you be properly situated according to your dharma at that time. Does not mean passiveness.
I was thinking like, I mean, what I understood that sthanistita was your physical location. So wherever you are situated, don't really have to relocate or don't really have to change that situation or, move to, in, to a better so-called like better situation.
That is not what my understanding is, but if you send me the references, I'll be glad to look at them.
Okay, but Praji, going back to that your answer, right? Like the follow-up is that like in what situation? So suppose somebody has a son like who's manifesting qualities like Duryodhan, then is it advisable for them to give up their son and like, or
When Duryodhan was born, then Vidur's advice to Dhritarashtra was kill him. So because there were a lot of inauspicious omens that were there when Duryodhan was born. As in the scriptures, it says that the dogs began to howl and fire began to emit from the mouth of the wolves. And Vidur pointed them out and says that this person is going to be the cause of the destruction of your dynasty and will cause a lot of pain to many living beings. So you better kill him. And then Dhritarashtra himself was able to see, not with his eyes, but he was able to see Vidur's point of view. But then he made the same point, that he's my son. Out of affection, I cannot do that. Because of which, he ultimately had to lead a life of various kinds of sufferings. So for us, at least as devotees, we always have this opportunity to so giving up the son can also be understood as helping the son give up that mentality. So as devotees, we have that opportunity, that we can help we can help the children, mostly by our personal example, but also by instruction, also by the mercy of the other devotees. But yes, there have been cases where parents, understanding that their children or their son is just going to be a cause of suffering, not physical suffering, but just suffering because of irreligiosity, they have taken the hard decision to separate themselves.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, we can move on to verse 14. Itrauchivam statrasyo dhanena pravradhakopa spurta dharena asat kritasat sparanaya shila kshat sakarna anuja sabalena. While speaking thus, Vidur, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhana, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhana was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle Shakuni. So now in 3 verses, we will see that how does Duryodhana respond to the advice of Vidur. And not very difficult to see it based on the physical manifestation that is described, that he was swollen with anger and his limbs were trembling. And to make matters worse, he is in the company of people who are also envious like him. So sometimes when a person loses control, then the friends or the people or his associates, they help calm him down. But Sukadeva Goswami said here, don't expect that, because he is in the company of whom? He is in the company of Karna. He is in the company of his younger brother and Shakuni. Also, the point is made here that Vidur has insulted Duryodhana in the presence of these people. So, for a person to get insulted is bad enough, but to get insulted in front of people who consider you as a superior, that is worse. So Karna was, even though he was a friend of Duryodhana, but he was essentially a dependent king. So the Angadesh was given to Karna by Duryodhana as a sign of benevolence. And the younger brothers were so inferior to him in relationship. And Shakuni always, at least externally, he took an obsequious or a supporting attitude to Duryodhana. Then Sukadeva Goswami uses the word sa. So sa means along with. So also means that everything that Vidur said for Duryodhana was also valid for these people. That these people should also be kicked out. These people are also impious. They are envious of Krishna. They will also cause the downfall of your dynasty. So better to leave them. In the verse, Sukadeva Goswami, he calls Vidur as Kshata. One of names of Vidur is Kshata, and then he qualifies Vidur by saying that he is Sat Svaranya Shila, that he is respected by all. Sat for his Svaranya Shila, for his desirable qualities. So the person who is saying this is actually a well-respected person. Dhritarashtra might say that Vidur, you are envious of my son, which is what Duryodhana will say. But Sukadeva Goswami, for the purpose of the audience, is making this point that whatever Vidur is saying is in accordance, because he's not envious. He is actually a widely respected great personality because of his good qualities. And Sat Svaranya Shila also means that a person with such good qualities is the well-wisher of everyone, including Duryodhana. So when he is asking for Duryodhana to be discarded, it is for the welfare of Duryodhana also, and for the welfare of everyone else. The condition of Duryodhana is described as Spurit Adharina. That his limbs were trembling because of Pravrit Kopa, because he was filled with anger. So that's just a manifest symptom of extreme anger. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, it is said that giving good counsel to a foolish person causes the fool to become angry, just as feeding milk to a snake only increases its venomous poison. Saint Vidur was so honorable that his character was looked upon by all respectable persons. But Duryodhana was so foolish that he dared to insult Vidur. This was due to his bad association with Shakuni, his maternal uncle, as well as with his friend Karna, who always encouraged Duryodhana in his nefarious acts. Okay. Verse 50. Kaina matra pajuhvajijam jihmam. Sorry. Kaina matrupaja havajihman dasya sutam yad balineva pushtaha tasmin pratipaha parakratyaste nirvashatayamashu purachashvashnaha purakashvashnaha. Who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress? He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemies against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him only with his breath. So in previously, Vidur had characterized Duryodhana as offense personified, dosha, he said. So Duryodhana responds by saying that it is actually Vidur who is full of faults. Now, as a gross materialist, he begins to point out the external defects, or the so-called external defects. So if you remember Vidur, he started out by pointing Duryodhana's lack of Krishna consciousness, or his envy to Krishna. But Duryodhana immediately points out the so-called material defects. So the first defect that he points out, which in his view is the greatest defect, is his birth. So he says that he's the son of a kept mistress. Now, really speaking, Vidur was not the son of a kept mistress. So he was born by the union of Vyasadeva and a maidservant, Dasya. So he's calls him Dasya Sutam. So Ambika, one of the wives of Vichitravir, she was reluctant to go again for union with Srila Vyasadeva. So instead of that, she had sent her Dasi. And because of that, Vidur was born. Now, it's not Vidur's fault. Right? How can one be blamed for one's own birth? Now, in a larger scheme, maybe because of his karma, but the fact is that he makes it the first disqualification, that he's Dasya Sutam. Then he begins to criticize the character of Vidur. So he said that he's ungrateful because he's been sustained by us, the Kauravas, and now he's speaking against us. So he's talking about the lack of gratitude towards your provider. And this is actually the reason why personalities like Bhishma and Drona and Kripa, they continued to support Duryodhana despite they clearly saw him as an impious and an unfit ruler, because they were supported by the Kauravas. So they were indebted to the sustenance. Bhishma towards the end of his life, when he was lying on the bed of arrows and he was preaching to Draupadi, he happened to glance. I mean, he was preaching to Yudhishthir, and he happened to glance at Draupadi, and then he was surprised to see a very contemptuous expression on her face. So then he stopped and he said, "My dear daughter, what is the reason that you're looking at me with so much of contempt?" And then she said that you're speaking such lofty topics about religiosity and the principles of mankind. Where was all that gone when I was being molested? At that time, you said it's very difficult to say, very difficult to understand all these laws of religion. And now you've suddenly become an expert. And Bhishma, he accepts it. He says at that point, at that time, my intelligence was clouded because of accepting the grains of Duryodhana. So in a way, it was literal also, because it is said the grains carry the sin. Also notional, that because of his indebtedness, he was unable to speak. So Duryodhana, he is showing Vidur as an ungrateful person. And an ungrateful person can never be trusted. So he's a person of low birth, and he's an untrustworthy person. Now Vidur had cautioned Dhritarashtra that Kulanashya, that Duryodhana will be the cause of the downfall of your dynasty. Duryodhana here is countering, he's saying that Vidur is Pratipa, that he is the one who is situated in enmity. He is Parakritya. Parakritya means that he is looking for the welfare of the enemy. So he is envious towards us and friendly towards the enemy. So he is the one who will be the cause of the downfall, not me. Then finally, Vidur had recommended to Dhritarashtra that Tyajaso, that immediately you cast your son away. Duryodhana says, Nirvashatyam Ashupurat, that immediately you should turn Vidur out of the palace. And the word Shwashnashna means with his breath only, which implies that do not let him take any belongings or wealth, just his breath. So don't allow Vidur the benefit of carrying any of the wealth that he has accumulated as being a minister of this dynasty, but just with his breath, you make him leave. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Prabhupada also say that only his breath should remain, can also be translated to that barely his breath should remain, which means that he should be beaten to the point that he is near death, that barely he is breathing, and then he should be kicked out. So in this way, Duryodhan, who himself was an expert politician, he counters so all the points that Vidur has made, he has countered them. That Vidur has said that Duryodhan will cause the downfall of the dynasty. He says, no, Vidur will cause the downfall of the dynasty. Duryodhan has bad qualities? No. Vidur has even more bad qualities. You kick Duryodhan out? No. You kick Vidur out, and as a bonus, beat him before kicking him out. Okay, next verse, 16. Swayam dhanurdwari nidhayamayam pratu purumaramshu tapito api saitam atyulbana karnabane gata vyatho ayad urumanayanaha. Thus, being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidur placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's place. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme. So this verse contains two seemingly contrary positions. It first describes Vidur as Maramamshu Tajita, that he was afflicted to the core of his heart. And then it says Gata Vyata, that he was not at all sorry. So they are reconciled by the word api, which stands for in spite of. So this gives a good description of the nature of a devotee. How does a devotee handle adversity? So a devotee is supposed to be sthita pragya, or situated in equanimity. But equanimity should not be confused with being stoic. Stoic means being devoid of emotions. A devotee is anything but stoic. They're soft-hearted. They're empathic. They're full of emotions. But they're sthita pragya, which means that they do not lose their mental balance. So when Abhimanyu was killed in Mahabharata, we see that Arjun demonstrated deep sorrow. He was lamenting. So he had just heard the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna had told him all the stuff about the soul being eternal and do your duty. And then when his son is killed, we see him lamenting. But what does he do? He picks up the bow again and he continues to fight. He continues in his service to Krishna with even more determination. We see the same thing in Vidur, that because of all that is being said, he is pained in the heart. But it does not cloud his intelligence. He does not leave because he feels that his ego has been bruised, or his position has been minimized. But he leaves considering that to be the most optimal course of action. So he was pained not so much by the words of Duryodhana, but by the fact that Dhritarashtra did not admonish Duryodhana. So just like during Draupadi Chiran, Duryodhana insulted Vidur, but Dhritarashtra, he did not address that. Same thing happened here, but to a much greater extent. So Vidur is using this as an opportunity to increase his spiritual engagement. So as the minister of the of the Kauravas, he was constantly dealing with so many intrigues and political aspects, and all that had intensified because of this conflict between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. So all this was contaminating his consciousness. And then he could see that while he was on the side of the Kurus, he would be forced to take a side opposite to Krishna. So that was causing him a lot of angst. So Srila Prabhupada says that the word gata vyata, without being sorry, is significant because Vidur was relieved from the tribulations which troubled every man entangled in material activities. Now, Vidur is also appreciating the external energy of Krishna, his Maya, in many ways. So he's amazed at its influence on Duryodhana. In what way? That right in front of Duryodhana, Krishna is there, but he is envious of Krishna. So the personality of Godhead is personally standing in front of you, and the only emotion that it is evoking in Duryodhana is that of envy. Sometimes people ask this question, that if God wants us to become devotees, why doesn't he personally come? But we see over here that those who are devotees, they don't need Krishna to be personally present to become devotees. And those who are non-devotees, even if Krishna is personally present, they will not be devotees. So he is amazed at Krishna's external energy that is bewildering Duryodhana in this way. He's amazed at Krishna's external energy on Dhritarashtra, that he is so absorbed in the love of his son, and that he is so blinded by his ambition that he has lost all sense of discrimination. He is also amazed that how great the illusory energy of Krishna is, that it is driving the devotee of the Lord away and making arrangements for their final end. So he's amazed that Krishna's external energy has made this arrangement, that Vidur is leaving, and now the time for their end is near. And then finally, he's amazed that the external energy of Krishna is going to be helping him to make spiritual advancements. Because as we will see that he uses this opportunity to go on an extended pilgrimage. So Vidur also leaves his bow at the door. Now Vidur was not a warrior, so we understand that the bow was a ceremonial bow, because Vidur was not a Kshatriya. He was considered a Shudra. So by placing the bow, Vidur was breaking all the relationships with the court. So even though it's not explicitly said here, but one can understand that it is a ceremonial bow that was given to Vidur as a member of the court. And he's leaving that kind of like his letter of resignation, that I hereby resign. And here is my access card. Here's my computer token. I don't need to come in again. So he leaves it there to formally signal his separation. It is also left there as a message to Dhritarashtra, saying that I will not fight against you. So the bow, of course, is a symbol of war, and war is imminent. So he's leaving it there to signify to Dhritarashtra that I'm not going to be showing up on the side of the Pandavas to fight against you, but I will be maintaining a neutral stand. He also left the bow over there to show his inner mood that I'm going to be traveling on a pilgrimage. I'm going to be relying on the mercy of devotees. What do I need a bow for? I'm only going to be under the protection of Krishna. I don't need any other protection. And Srila Prabhupada gives yet another reason that he therefore thought that there is no need to defend his brother with his bow because his brother was meant for ruination. So Srila Prabhupada says that Vidur leaves the bow saying that you're a gone case now. Nobody can help you. So there is no need for me to even make a token effort to help you. You are definitely destined to be doomed. Okay, next verse, 17. Sanirgatah kaurav punyalabdo gajavaya tirtha pada padani anvakramat punya chikarashavaryam adhishtato yani sahasramurti. By his piety, Vidur achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimages, which are the Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a high order of pious life, he travels to holy places, where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. So in 9 verses, from 17 to 25, Sukadeva Goswami will describe Vidur's travels and pilgrimages. So Prabhupada translates Kaurava Punya Labdo as achieved birth in the Kaurav dynasty because of his piety. So Prabhupada says that Vidur was undoubtedly a highly elevated and pious soul. Otherwise, he would not have taken his birth in the Kaurav family. To have high parentage, to possess wealth, to be highly learned, and to have great personal beauty are all due to past pious acts. So Prabhupada says that the same piety now helps him in his future travels. Vishwanath Chakravarti translates this verse as, he because of whom the Kaurav dynasty achieved piety. So it kind of turns it around, saying that because Vidur appeared in the Kuru dynasty, they acquired piety. And now that he is leaving, they are going to be losing their good fortune. So the presence of a devotee is something that creates auspiciousness for the entire family. Now, one question that may be asked over here is that why does Vidur have to go on a pilgrimage? The purpose of going on a pilgrimage, and Sukadeva Goswami describes over here, that he took shelter of many places of pilgrimage, which are the Lord's lotus feet. Vidur had access to Krishna personally. All he had to do was to walk over to the camp of the Pandavas, and there was Krishna. So why was he rejecting personal association with the personality of Godhead, and he being aware? He's already made it clear what Krishna's position is. So it's not that he's illusion about it, but still he is still declining to seek personal association of Krishna, and instead of that go to the places of Tirtha, which are reflection of Krishna's lotus feet. And Prabhupada gives the explanation. He says, Vidur considered himself less pious, and therefore he decided to travel to all the great places of pilgrimage in the world in order to achieve greater piety and advance nearer to the Lord. At that time, Lord Krishna was personally present in the world, and Vidur could have at once approached him directly. But he did not do so because he was not sufficiently freed from sin. So this mood of fearlessness and complete surrender on Krishna is a sign of one's mature bhakti. So it's not that Vidur felt that Krishna was in any way not dependable, because he was actually, when he went on the pilgrimage, he was fully depending on Krishna. But he felt that he was not qualified to approach Krishna because he was contaminated. So Burijan Prabhu, he shares this interesting snippet, and he says the mood of fearlessness and complete surrender on Krishna is a sign of one's mature bhakti. Srila Prabhupada, whose initiated name, Abhay Charan Arvind, means fearlessly situated in the Lord's lotus feet, once spoke of his own courage during a London morning walk conversation in 1975. And then he gives the conversation. Prabhupada is saying, oh, Victoria Memorial, Brahmanand, that was built for the king when he was coming. So he asked him, that was built for the king when he was coming? Prabhupada, no. It was built in memory of Victoria. It was done imitating the Taj Mahal. It took 20 years. Sri Rajendranath Mukherjee of Martin Company, he took the contract. And after finishing, he got the title Sir. When it was being constructed, I went to the top by crossing the scaffolding. Brahmanand, you must have been very brave. Prabhupada, yes, I am still brave. Otherwise, how could I have come alone to preach Krishna consciousness? I am still brave. Devotees, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, some astrologer told that this boy, for executing his purpose, he will enter into fire. Yes, recently in our Bombay affair, it was fire. It was fight with the fire. Is it? Not. Brahmananda, yes. Oh, yes. Prabhupada, and we have come out victorious. So Burijan Prabhu states that just to show that this mood of being completely dependent on Krishna is a hallmark of devotees. Okay, next verse. Verse 18. Pureshu punya pavanadri kunejeshva apankatoyeshu sarit sarahasu anantalingaha samalankriteshu chacharatirthyataneshwananyaha. He began to travel alone thinking only of Krishna, through various holy places like Ayodhya, Dwarka, and Mathura. He traveled where the grove, hill, orchard, river, and lake were all pure and sinless, and where the forms of the unlimited decorates the temple. Thus, he performed the pilgrim's progress. So Vidar left alone. So he traveled alone. So he left alone without his wife and without his family. Ananya also refers to his vision. So he traveled seeing only Krishna alone. So even though he was traveling to places where they had beautiful hills and orchards and rivers and lakes, but his vision was Ananya, that he was only seeing Krishna. So he visited places sanctified by the pastimes of Krishna, and also places that were naturally in the mode of goodness. He visited temples to give obeisances to the deities. So we see his mood very similar to that what we saw in the first canto of Narad Muni when his mother passed away. That when he began his spiritual quest, he traveled alone fearlessly everywhere. Of course, Narad Muni was 5 years old, Vidur was much older, but the mood is similar, that he went from different places of pilgrimage, and he appreciated pristine nature in connection with the Lord. So Prabhupada, in the purport, he comments on Vidur's visiting the temples, and he says the forms of the Lord are mentioned here as Anantalinga. Such forms of the Lord have unlimited potency, the same as that of the Lord himself. There is no difference between the potency of the Archa and those of the personal forms of the Lord. The example of the post box and the post office may be applied here. So Prabhupada does not expand on the example because he's given it many times, but the point he makes is that there is a post office and there are hundreds of post boxes. So whether you drop a letter in the post box or the post office, it's the same. Because as long as that post box is authorized by the post office, it carries with it all the potency. That you drop any letter, it will reach its destination. So similarly, there is Krishna and there are the Archavigraha form. As long as they are authorized, they carry the same potency. Okay, so I'll do 2 more verses and then we'll stop for any discussion. Verse 19. Gam prayatam medya vivikta vritihi sada pluto adaha shayano vadattataha alakshata svairavaduta vesho Vrtani chir harito shanani. While so traversing the earth, he simply performed duties to please the Supreme Lord Hari. His occupation was pure and independent. He was constantly sanctified by taking his bath in holy places. Although he was in the dress of a mendicant and had no hair dressing, nor a bed on which to lie. Thus, he was always unseen by his various relatives. So the previous verse spoke about the attachment of Vidur to Krishna, the spiritual attachment. This verse speaks about the material detachment. And he practiced both. He practiced material detachment as well as spiritual attachment for Haritoshana, for the pleasure of Krishna. So Vivikta Vriti refers to begging for alms just enough to survive. So no hoarding, no keeping in the bag for the next meal, just enough for him to eat. It is described as medya or pure Because Vivikta Vritti, it's not contaminated by the modes of varnashram. So in the various varnas and ashrams, there are different modes, either goodness, passion, or ignorance. But Vivikta Vritti, it is pure, because in Vivikta Vritti, one only keeps the body and soul together for the purpose of serving the Lord. No other reason. Then he was Adaha Shayana. So that means he was sleeping on bare earth, which meant that he was not seeking the protection or comfort of a house, and he had no fixed residence. Sukadev Goswami uses the word avaduta and avadut vesha to convey that both internally as a mood and externally in appearance, he was no longer worried about social norms and religious etiquette. So avadut is one who is not worried about the prakrit dharma, about the rules and regulations of society. So avadut vesh means that he did not dress in as per social etiquette. And avadut means that even in his thought process, he was not concerned that what is socially the right thing to do. Alakshata swahi, that he was not recognized by his relatives. The fact that he was dressed in such a way, the fact that he was unkept, no hair, he was not recognized by his relatives. Alakshata swate also means that he did not recognize his relatives. So which meant that he broke off all his family connection. So the first interpretation refers to his external transformation, that his body, his attire was transferred to the extent that even his relatives would not recognize him. And the second refers to his internal transformation, that he did not he transcended the bodily platform, because relatives are through the body. Now, this is my brother or sister or child. So because he had transcended them, he did not recognize them as a relative. That is his internal mood. Now later on, he does go to rescue Dhritarashtra, but the understanding is that the mood over there is that of a preacher. He really doesn't go. If he had gone as a brother, he wouldn't have spoken so harshly about it. And he was sada apluta. So he was always pure and sanctified by thought and action. So avadut doesn't mean that one becomes irreligious. Sometimes people consider avadut that you go and somebody is sitting and smoking ganja and say, I'm an avadut, that I'm no longer bound by this by the norms of the society. So Sukadev Goswami is saying that he is sada apluta. He is always pure and sanctified by thought and action. So these are the activities of a true renunciate. Now, Vidur, he did all this not because he was interested in vairagya. He was not interested in renunciation. But his vairagya was a byproduct of Hari Toshanani. That because he was single-mindedly focusing on how to please the personality of Godhead. That was a dominant mode. That has been established in the previous verse, when Sukadev Goswami established Vidur's spiritual attachment. So he talks about first the spiritual attachment, and then as a byproduct of the spiritual attachment, this material detachment comes. But even there he says Hari Toshanani, that all of this was because of his desire to please Krishna. So together these two verses, they convey the simultaneous spiritual attachment and material attachment of Vidur to please the Lord. Verse 20. Itaham rachan bharatam eva varsham kalena yavad gatavan prabhasam tavak chashasha kshitame kachakram ekat patram ajitena partha. Thus, when he was in the land of Bharatvarsha, traveling to all the places of pilgrimage, he visited Prabhas Kshetra. At that time, Maharaja Yudhishthir was the emperor and held the world under one military strength and one flank. So we can understand that while Vidur was on the pilgrimage, the battle of Mahabharata was fought. Maharaj Yudhishthir had won it, the Pandavas had won it, and they had gained dominion to the entire earth. So Bharatvarsha refers both to the current, to approximately the current area of India. Also, it refers to the entire Earth planet, because they were all united under the same king. Prabhupada mentioned that at present, there are hundreds and thousands of flags flapping in the United Nations, but during the time of Vidur, there was, by the grace of Ajit, Lord Krishna, only one flag. The nations of the world are very eager to again have one state under one flag. But for this, they must seek the favor of Lord Krishna, who alone can help us become one worldwide nation. So this is the visit of Vidur to Prabhas Kshetra. The place now is popularly known as Somnath because of the famous temple of Lord Shiva. There's a Lord Shiva's Jyotirlinga over there. And it also has the name Prabhas Kshetra because Prabhas means the moon. Because the moon, when he was cursed by Prajapati Daksha, he came there and he performed austerities to please Lord Shiva. So that's when Lord Shiva agrees to accept the moon on his forehead. And of course, this is also the place where later on the final pastimes of Krishna will be performed. Okay, so let me stop here, see if we have any comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. One comment and a question, Prabhuji. Firstly, I wanted to thank you, Prabhuji. It was so nice explanation. Especially a couple of points that struck me is one point when you mentioned is his vairagya is not is external. He wanted to manifest, he wanted to be detached, not that, but his eagerness to go. That is something when I meditate, it was so wonderful. So when will I reach next Dham and see the Lord? And when will I meet some sage? With that eagerness, if he forgetting himself is so great. So until you mentioned that, I couldn't get that thought. So thank you for that. And one question, Prabhuji, one question, Prabhuji, Chandramamsha, that Kauravas and Pandavas, they are all from the lunar dynasty. So when, they are always famous for, giving birth for great personalities, how come somebody like Duryodhan, with so much of negative characteristics, got the opportunity to take birth there in such a dynasty? What is his background or anything that you can share?
And so we see that in all dynasties that there are there are pious people and there are impious people, right? Because if you take it in a broader context, there are only two dynasties. There are the Surya Vamshas and Chandra Vamshis. And all the pious and the impious kings in the history are born in one of the two dynasties. So I don't think that there is this overriding regimen that all the Chandravanshis are extremely pious or all the Suryavamshis are extremely pious. They have their mixture. Now, they were definitely great. That's why Prabhupada mentions that one of the reasons Vidur is called pious is that because of his piety, he took birth there. And that is more because he was in the ruling class. That even though he was not the ruler, but son of Vyasadeva, brother of Dhritarashtra and Pandu, related to such great personalities. So that definitely reflects on the fact that it was an exclusive privilege that Vidur had. For Duryodhan's, there is a pastime in the Mahabharata. It does not answer your question about why they took birth in the Kuru Vamsha, but there's a pastime in the Mahabharata about the fact that that Duryodhan was produced as a result of 100-year yajna that were performed by the Danavas. And they're performed that specifically for the purpose of taking control of the earth planet. So Duryodhan was a result of, at the end of that yajna, Lord Shiva appeared. And Lord Shiva asked them for a benediction. So in benediction, they had asked for Duryodhan. And that's how Duryodhan appeared. This is described in Mahabharata. So it's a long pastime. Mahabharata, one pastime leads to another pastime. So it just talks about the antecedents of Duryodhana and his brothers.
Thank you.
One comment. I heard you mention earlier about the incident when Draupadi was being insulted, and when Bhishma was giving all these moral instructions, and he was questioned by Draupadi that when she was being insulted, where was his morality and all the high standing that he's, and you give the explanation about grains, but because he was taking the grains from Duryodhana, and because the sin resided there. A very nice explanation, but I could recall when you did that chapter, the passing of Bhishma, you gave another explanation, which was also very nice. That was because Bhishma, in his association with Duryodhana and whatever, his blood became contaminated. And then he answered to Draupadi that now I could speak like this because, being on this bed of arrow, that blood has drained out, from my body. So in this way, I have become purified and I could speak like this. I'm just wondering if I got that correct, but both explanations seems to be very wonderful. If you could remember, you told us that in that chapter.
Right. Yeah, similar also. They're similar in mood. The fact is that the grains nourish the blood. So similar tattva is being mentioned. there. And this does not appear in the Bhagavatam. Of course, you have read the Bhagavatam. This does not appear in the Bhagavatam. And as far as I know, it does not appear in the Mahabharata also. This sidebar between Bhishma and Draupadi. It appears in one of the other Puranas. The same pastimes are repeated again in the other Puranas. So I heard it. I heard it in a class that was given by one of the sannyasis, but he did not give it, and I did not follow up to get exactly where it appeared from. But obviously, the fact that he was giving it and it does, as you mentioned, it does sound wonderful and credible.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. Just have some trivial question. It is just for it says one of the purport, Prabhupada's purport, Ananta Linga. Does it refer to Shiva Linga or is it something different?
It does not refer to Shiva Linga. It just refers to which was the verse in which it
Ananta, I think the verse, 2 verse before the last one, I guess.
Verse 18 purport.
It appears in verse 18.
In the purport.
Yeah.
Okay. It does not. So yeah, I'm reading it there. It refers to the Archavigraha form of the Lord. So because Prabhupada says the forms of the Lord are mentioned here as Anantalinga. So he's talking about the deity form of the Lord, not of Lord Shiva, but of Krishna.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Is there anything known about how long Vidur Maharaj was going on pilgrimage? Because he started before the war actually, and then it still didn't finish his pilgrimage yet, and he is now under the reign of Yudhishthira Maharaj. So obviously the war finished and the Yudhishthira took over, as you mentioned. So is there any timeline?
It's a good question. I know Achyuta also asked it. It actually appears in one of the, does not appear directly, but in one of the subsequent verses, I think we will be doing it in the very next discussion. There is a fairly elaborate discussion about the timeline of the Vidur. So if you can hold your question, I'm sure it will be answered then. If not, then do remind me.
Sure, Prabhu. Sure.
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, one question or comment, I don't know how to say that. We said in one of the verses that Sakuni was supporting Duryodhana, but I understood somewhere that Shakuni's intention was also to destroy the Kuru dynasty.
It was, you're right. He was using Duryodhana as a catalyst, because he understood that Duryodhana had the ability to do what he wanted. So he was using Duryodhana that way. But there is a fairly elaborate pastime, well, not really pastime, because these are mostly people who are in the modes of Shakuni's antecedents, that the kingdom of the Gandhar, when the Kurus attacked it, then it was a very long, drawn-out battle and very difficult to win, but ultimately they won. And then they imprisoned the father of Shakuni they killed the father of Shakuni and they imprisoned him with his brothers. I forget if he had 7 brothers or 9 brothers. And they would give only 1 grain of rice for each brother as food. So the all the elder brothers, they would give their own grain of rice to Shakuni. And they basically said that you survive and take our revenge for my father and us. So all his brothers died and he survived. And then I think it was Bhishma Dev, he came up with the proposal of the marriage of his sister with Dhritarashtra. And that itself was a big insult because Dhritarashtra was blind. And so that's why he had already given, Shakuni had given this vow to his brothers that he would be the cause of the destruction of the dynasty. So yes, so he was right from the beginning conspiring to destroy the dynasty.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the explanation. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhuji, one quick thing, like Vidur, basically he considered himself as impious, and that's why he decided to go on pilgrimage. And then in the purport, Prabhupada says that he considered himself less pious. Vidur was conscious that by the association of diplomatic Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, he had lost his piety. So, but his consciousness was not affected. It doesn't seem like his consciousness was ever affected by their association, right? So, why would he consider himself as less?
So you're right. You're right. To a great extent, it is a sign of his humility. That because of the same reasons that he had been supported by the Kurus for such a long time, he was also part of, not actively, but he was seeing all the intrigue that was being done against the Pandavas, them being banished from the kingdom, cheated at gambling, Draupadi being insulted, Lakshagriha. He was seeing all that, and he was still the minister. So that's why he considered himself to have been a part of the wrongs done against the Lord and his devotees. But his obviously his consciousness was clear, which is why he was able to do what he did, which is why he was favored by Krishna in such a special way, as we will see in I think 2 chapters from now. We will see that how Krishna specifically favors him. So it's just the mode of a devotee. The devotee considers himself as needing more purification than his actual situation is. It's like even you talk amongst devotees, and they will say that, Prabhu, I'm really not a devotee, and my chanting is not good. I'm not able to read properly. I'm not doing any service. And then you say, are you chanting 16 rounds? Yes, I'm chanting 16 rounds. Are you reading? Yes, I read half an hour. Are you doing this? Yes, I'm doing that. So all that is going on. But it's the nature of the humility, nature of humility in the devotees, that they are hard on themselves and soft on others.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. But I was just thinking, why would he? Why would he not go to the Lord and take his association, which will be probably more purifying than, going to pilgrimage?
Yeah, same reason. He didn't consider himself pure enough. Same reason. So it's not that he had artificial humility, right? It's not that he's thinking that,
right,
actually I'm very pure, but let me say that, I'm impure. many years ago in New Vrindavan, these young Gurukul boys, they had done a skit on artificial humility, and there were two devotees who were competing with one another. The first one said, accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. And the other person said, accept my humble obeisances at the dust of your lotus feet. The other one said, accept my humble obeisances at the insects who live in the dust of your lotus feet. And then they went on and on and on. That just, it was obviously a comedy. So I mean, the point was that there are some people who operate at a platform of artificial humility and say that, I'm fallen, but actually I can say I'm fallen, but actually I'm really great. And obviously Vidur was not at that level. He did really consider himself, because of his close association with all these activities, he did consider himself unfit to have direct association of Krishna. And that's why he went, and this is the prescribed way that one does to purify oneself. And then he does get the mercy of Krishna.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, does he also, is it also the reason that he doesn't want to, see the battle, or, others requesting him to join their party kind of scenarios? And is that also is the kind of reason, Prabhu, or it has nothing mentioned anywhere?
He was, so Vidur was not a warrior, right? And I, as far as I remember, at no point of time he was approached for alliances. He was, he was part of the Kaurav ruling dynasty, and then he left. Even before the battle started, he left, and he disappeared there. Now, his internal mood, of course, was, as you're saying, that very similar to that of Lord Balram, that he did not want to. He saw that battle was inevitable, and he did not want to be in a position where he had to choose sides. But ultimately, he looked upon it, as we discussed, he looked upon it as Krishna's benediction, that it got him to sever the bonds that he had as a minister and a brother and an uncle, and just focus on his service to Krishna. Okay, so we'll stop here. We'll continue again on Monday. And Gaur-Sundar Prabhu and Achyuta have done. So do you want to describe quickly, Achyuta, what have you done differently this time in terms of YouTube?
Prabhu, let us not even discuss that. I'm doing that right now. So let me see this week how it goes. And if I will, I'm doing the live right now, but how much it works, recording and all the details, I'll share it next week.
Okay, so this is still in beta.
Yeah, in beta version.
It's working, Prabhu, but it's just that the links will be different from third canto onwards, or from today's session onward. It will be different. It won't be on your channel, Nitai Sachisuta. It will be on another channel, and Krishna Talks.
Yeah, it's a Krishna Talk channel, Abhaya Hari Prabhu's channel, separate channel.
I see. Okay. So we'll wait till a few times to see if it works fine. Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Vanchakalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Thai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.